Turn in my video lecture series on fundamentals of physics. This is my fifth talk and fourth part of kinematics in one dimension. In this particular talk, we will discuss about one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time, and how the concept of Cartesian space can be used to describe the kinematics in one dimension of the Newtonian particle. So far, we have learned about the concept of Newtonian particle through this series, the length, time and mass as base quantity, their SI units and their SI unit symbol. We know definitions of SI units associated with the dimensions of length, time and mass. We have also learned about real line, Euclidean geometry and Cartesian geometry. You have learned in earlier school courses. So I assume that you are familiar with real line, real numbers, real algebra, Euclidean geometry and Cartesian geometry. In this fifth talk, we will move forward and discuss about the concept of space and time. Space and time are two most important notions in development of any physical theory. So any theory which you develop about physical phenomena or natural phenomena will definitely involve the concept of space and time or the notion of space and time. So to describe the kinematics of the chosen physical system called particle, which is indivisible, which has point size and therefore can be located at a point in what we call one-dimensional space, we need to employ one-dimensional space as well as one-dimensional time to describe the motion and the kinematics. Remember, one-dimensional space and one-dimensional time both are considered physical space. A Euclidean or Cartesian space is a formal system. But when I talk about one-dimensional physical space or one-dimension physical time, these are concepts and notions in physics. The kind of physical theories we are learning at the early stage, the space and time are passive, and therefore sometimes this fact that space and time are physical we cannot notice explicitly in our discussion, and it appears as if space and time are required and for theoretical purpose only, and they have no physical significance. But when we move towards advanced theories later in the series, then we will realize the importance of the concept of space and time as physical concept, and we would come across theories in which space and time plays a very active role. For example, the general theory of relativity or Big Bang theory of cosmology. Space and time are essentially required. So if you wish to develop any physical theory from scratch, then definitely whatever be the system in consideration, the concept of space and time you have to introduce in your theory. So they are very much essential for description of behavior of a physical system. Now let's focus on what we call one-dimensional Cartesian real space. One-dimensional Cartesian real space is what we can conceptualize in coordinate geometry or Cartesian geometry. In coordinate geometry or Cartesian geometry in one dimensions, generally we use Cartesian geometry in 2 or 3 dimensions, And in most of the books, when kinematics is described, the one-dimensional Cartesian geometry aspects are not emphasized, because we find that maybe when we will generalize it to 2 or 3 dimensions, then the ideas will become automatically clear and the mathematical concepts or notions are not explained in teaching kinematics in 1 dimension. In my presentation, I am giving due emphasis to that. So a one-dimensional Cartesian real space can be encoded to the graph of x-axis by drawing a real line and calling it x-axis as shown in the picture. So this is the graph of x-axis, and by using this graph of x-axis we can describe the one-dimensional Cartesian real space. Each point on the real line which corresponds to the real number and will corresponds to the one-dimension Cartesian real space. As I pointed out earlier, the space is set of points. There are uncountable number of real numbers and therefore there are uncountable number of points in this one-dimensional real space. But each point in the space will be encoded to one point on this x-axis line, and each point on this x-axis line there is an associated x coordinate, and where x is a real number, so it can be positive and it can be negative also. To make this encoding, we have to choose a point where we choose origin or x equal to 0, where the coordinate 0 is assigned, and then by using some scale we can mark the different real numbers. The integer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, positive as well as negative, are shown in the picture. So for this point where x is equals to plus 2, there is a point in one-dimensional space where particle may or may not be located, and for this point similarly at minus 2 or minus 3, there is a corresponding point in one-dimensional physical space. But what I am right now describing is one-dimensional Cartesian space. So a one-dimensional Cartesian space consists of the points on this particular x-axis. Each point is being labeled by a particular real number, and that's why it's called real space. And Cartesian space because coordinates are used, and one-dimensional because only one coordinate is required. So if you have to specify a point on this x-axis, you have to specify the coordinate of that particular point, and the coordinate of that particular point will be a real number. So I hope that you have understood it. Further, we will be using, there are other methods also, but we will be using what we call right-handed coordinate system and not the left-handed coordinate system. So the two options are there. So we will be using right-handed coordinate system in our discussions throughout the video lecture series. So take it noted that right-handed coordinate systems will be used wherever coordinate system would be required in our discussion. And it means what? That the point right to the origin on the x-axis will have associated positive real numbers, and point left to the origin on the x-axis will have associated unique negative real number. So the direction, if you move towards right from the origin, will be called positive x direction, and if you move towards right, then it is called positive x direction, and if you move towards left, then it is called negative x direction. Because when you move towards positive x direction, then the x coordinate will increase, and if you move towards negative x direction, the x coordinate will decrease. And I hope you already know that minus 2 is less than 1. All real numbers are ordered real numbers. So minus 2 is less than 1, but plus 2 is greater than 1. So if you have to move from 1 to 2, plus 1 to plus 2, that is a movement in positive x direction. But if you have to move from plus 1 to minus 2, that involves a movement in negative x direction. And we will need to employ in physics vector quantities. So we assign a unit vector to the x-axis, and that unit vector will be labeled by I cap, and this I cap unit vector indicates unit vector along x-axis. So positive I cap with a positive number would mean something, and if the number associated, the coefficient of I cap is negative, then it will be indicating opposite thing. So there are two directions, positive I cap and negative I cap. Positive I cap in a sense pointing towards the right, and negative I cap pointing towards the left on this x-axis shown in the picture. But if I wish, I can tilt this axis vertically, and then maybe I can call that the positive I cap is moving towards upward direction and negative I cap is moving towards downward direction. We would later require that. So remember, for one-dimensional Cartesian real space, you need only one direction, which I have shown in the picture as a horizontal direction. From left to right, the positive x direction, and from right to left, it's the negative x direction. But we have to choose an origin also to assign coordinates to different point in this one-dimensional Cartesian real space. This is abstract formal system, and what I have described on this slide doesn't require existence of a particle. It can be discussed. Mathematics can be discussed for such a system, and it's a formal system. Now, one-dimensional physical space is not a formal system. One-dimensional physical space is a concept in physics, but as I have pointed out in the very first lecture, that to understand the physics, to understand the natural system, to understand the physical systems, we have to adopt the approach where we encode natural systems into formal system. So this is the first example where I need that to understand one-dimensional physical space, I will encode one-dimensional physical space to one-dimensional real Cartesian space. So in my presentation, when I am using one-dimensional physical space, it is a concept in physics, and when I am using one-dimensional real Cartesian space, it is a mathematical notion or concept. And we are establishing a link between the two, which we call encoding. So encoding one-dimensional physical space to this one-dimensional x-axis would also involve therefore that in our one-dimensional physical space where the motion is occurring, the natural system is existing. Suppose it's a hypothetical system and hypothetical one-dimensional world, but in that hypothetical one-dimensional world, we have to choose one-dimensional physical space where the system is located. We have to choose at least one point as origin first, and that point is once chosen, then the points in the physical space which are on the right hand side to the chosen origin will be assigned positive coordinates. So a point which is on the right hand side to the chosen origin at plus x meter will be assigned a positive x coordinate, but if it is in the left direction or towards the left direction and at some other value, then it will be assigned the negative real number as coordinates. So the difference is that as in one-dimensional real Cartesian space, I need not mention meter on the x-axis because it is a mathematical concept, and x there is simply a real number. Now I am using one-dimensional physical space to describe a physical quantity which has dimension of length and which has unit of meter, and therefore I am writing with the x in meter within the bracket. M is written, which indicates that the x on the chart or graph is in meter. So what does the point 2 means? The point where the label 2 is given means it is at distance 2 meter from the chosen origin. And similarly minus 4 means it is at distance 4 meter from the chosen origin but in left direction, plus 2 is in right direction from the chosen origin. In this manner, to each point in the physical space, one-dimensional physical space, we can assign the coordinates. But the assignment of the coordinates or requires what? The measurement of the distance from the origin. So when you discuss a problem, if you have specified the positions of the initial position of the particle or position if you want to know at any instant of time, then you will have to, in one-dimensional physical space, you will have to map on this x-axis. It will become more clear and quite obvious when we will make use of it. But remember what we have learned so far, that one-dimensional physical space can be mathematically taken by using one-dimensional real Cartesian space. And then this, in one-dimensional real Cartesian space, each point can be decoded to a point in the physical space. Encoding and decoding are inverse operations. So if I say one-dimensional physical space is encoded to the one-dimensional real Cartesian space, the decoding of one-dimensional real Cartesian space will give me one-dimensional physical space. So what we will do that, given the conditions, the physical space we first map into the formal system, and then what we will do, we will employ the mathematics which we will develop in a particular theoretical framework which we believe that governs the change, and then the implications will be mathematically studied on the formal system, and then it will be decoded to again physical system, because what is accessible in experiment is physical system and is not mathematical system. But this business of encoding and decoding is very essential, not only in this branch of physics, in all branches which we will study, and in coming lectures also we will be adopting this approach. So be careful and don't ignore it, and don't consider it as an obvious. Sometimes it appears as if it is obvious, and because of the familiarity, if you have already learned the physics, then maybe you will find that this is very obvious and I am overemphasizing certain simple aspects of the motion. But the next is that once you have chosen the freedom, we have freedom, we can choose any point. For example, in the free fall motion, instead of choosing that point as origin from where the fall begins, what I will choose when I will describe the mathematics, because it is convenient to me, the point at which the apple falls on the ground, that I will choose as origin, and I will choose the positive x direction or the coordinate one-dimensional space direction positive in the upward direction, and symbolize other coordinates in the same manner. So remember, the choice of origin is with us, and given a physical system, if you can choose, many points are involved in that description of the physical system, you can choose any point as an origin. And if the physics remains same by choosing any point on the origin, the space is called homogeneous. So in a sense, we have assumed that the space is homogeneous, and since the space is homogeneous, therefore you can choose any point in the physical space as the origin, and the physics, the kinematics, the motion, the dynamics will not depend upon the choice of origin. The phenomena which you observe will not depend. The way you describe will definitely change, because if you change the origin, the coordinates of the points will change, and you can shift an origin also, and that is called a space translation. And in the space translation, the coordinates will change. So I hope this is clear to you, that once origin is chosen, the point at distance x meter in physical space will be encoded to a point having x coordinate on the x-axis graph, and the x can be positive or negative, depending upon, can be a positive or negative real number, depending upon the point is on the right hand side of the origin or on the left hand side of the origin respectively. So if the coordinate is a positive real number, you are sure that the point is on right hand side of the origin. If the coordinate is on left hand side, negative real number, then you are sure that it is on the left hand side. And finally, we would also have that picture that if you move towards the right direction in one-dimensional physical space, then the x coordinate will increase, and if you move towards the left direction, then x coordinate will increase. The increasing x coordinate direction is called positive x direction, and decreasing x coordinate direction is called negative x direction. Next, just to make it further clear, I have chosen an example of 4. So this point 4 indicates that it is at distance 4 meters from the origin towards right, and the minus 4 which is here will indicate that it is at distance 4 meter. If I have said 4 kilometer, it is wrong. 4 meters from the origin on the left hand side. So plus 4 is at 4 meter from the origin on right hand side, and minus 4 represents the coordinate value for 4 meter distance in physical space, which will be encoded to this particular point. That particular point in the physical space is at 4 meter distance from the origin on the decreasing x side or decreasing x coordinate side or negative from the origin. So with that picture clear, now we introduce the concept of a physical quantity. It's a new physical quantity, you can say, in a way we are now defining. It is called the position vector. Position vector of the particle. The particle is located at a point, and the position vector of the point will be called the position vector of the particle. So each position is point in the one-dimensional physical space has an associated position vector. So to get the information about it, what you need to know just the encoding. So here in the picture is shown a position vector. Suppose you have, which you write as x position vector, x vector. So I have put an arrow, the manner in which you should write, equals to xi unit vector. So x vector equals to xi unit vector is a position vector of a point which has coordinate small x. Of that point, it is a position vector. So what that means, for this point which I am indicating with mouse, the position vector is 3i. Here it is 4i. In between there will be a point 3.5i, and similarly you will have a point here root 2i, because it can be any real number, rational or irrational. You will have a minus root 2i here somewhere, and a minus root 2i would also be there. So in that manner we can assign position vector to each point where the particle may be probably located. And so the state of the particle in describing kinematics in one dimension, the state of the particle, because particle is a point size object, it will be located at a point, and the state of the particle will be described in terms of the position vector at that particular state. And position vector may change with time if particle is in motion, and that we will come to. That if x is changing, the coordinate is changing with time, then that will describe motion. If x is not changing with time, then we may say it is at rest. But we have developed now with the concept of position vector that if in my one-dimensional real physical space particle is located at a particular point, then I can describe the state of that particle by using the position vector in my formal system. Position vector is in formal system. The real particle, which is in fact here is a hypothetical particle, you cannot have an experiment, but the hypothetical particle, the chosen system is existing in the real space, and it will be in that one-dimensional real space existing at some point, and corresponding after the encoding to the one dimensional real Cartesian space, I will choose a position vector and I will say that this position vector describes the position of the particle at that particular instant. So in that manner we can move further and understand what we call a one-dimensional vector, because that understanding will be essentially required, because I have said position vector is a vector quantity. What do we mean by a vector? And one-dimensional vector right now I will take up. So a one-dimensional vector, as written earlier, the position vector xi equals to xi I unit vector, is a quantity and it's a mathematical quantity, and when we will use for something in physics, then it would also be that we will say that physical quantity is the vector quantity. So a one-dimensional vector is a mathematical notion, and a one-dimensional vector involves two things. And since I am talking about only real one-dimensional vector, so it involves two things: a real number xi and a unit vector. So here the real number is xi and the unit vector is I unit vector, which is taken in the positive x direction. So positive real numbers, the points which are on the positive real number side from the origin, will have positive position vector, in the sense that the xi will be positive and the unit vector I is in the positive x direction. But if you choose a point on left of the origin, then it will be having an xi which has a negative sign, a negative real number, and therefore finally you can read it like that negative of something into I unit vector, and this negative of something into I unit vector will make it clear to you that it is a vector pointing towards negative I direction or decreasing x coordinate direction, positive I direction, increasing x coordinate direction. In this manner we have to interpret. But sometimes for a vector we use a term called modulus or magnitude or norm of the vector. In this particular example, the modulus, magnitude or norm of the vector will be equal to the modulus or magnitude or norm of the number xi, which is a real number. And as you already know that modulus of plus 5 is plus 5, but modulus of minus 5 is also plus 5. So modulus of norm or magnitude is always a positive quantity. So what we can say that this vector xi vector shown here, xi vector equals to xi into I unit vector, it has a magnitude of modulus of xi and a direction which is given by this either plus I or minus I, depending upon the fact plus I positive x direction if the xi is a positive real number, and if xi is a negative real number, it will indicate negative x direction or decreasing x direction. So I hope one-dimensional vector is very clear to you, and then we will generalize the notion of one-dimensional vector. Very easily you will be able to understand that to two-dimensional vector and three-dimensional vector. In major part of the initial course we will require the knowledge of three-dimensional vector and their algebra, and which will be appropriately introduced at appropriate time. So don't worry about that. But one-dimensional vector is a very simple notion. Displacement vector is then defined in terms of position vector, and it is also a one-dimensional vector quantity. So suppose at some instant t equal to ti, and generally this ti, t with subscript I which I have written, we choose for the initial time. So at some initial time t equals to ti, the position vector of the particle is xi vector, and at another instant t equal to tf, maybe a later instant, say the position of the particle, which we call final position because it is at later stage, calling the final position at an earlier stage will have no meaning. So in day-to-day understanding, so at later instant t equal to tf, suppose we have finally particle located at a different point and which has a position vector xf shown here in the slide as xf equals to xfi. So this is the initial position vector and this is final position vector. So when we have two position vector, one corresponding to the position at time t equal to ti, another corresponding to the position at time t equal to tf, then we can define a new quantity, physical quantity. So another quantity being introduced, which is called displacement vector. So displacement of the particle in the duration Ti to Tf by definition. So displacement has no meaning unless you specify the duration. So whether you have specified it clearly or it is understood that this duration is being talked about, that may happen, but displacement makes a sense only for an interval of time. So it will have an initial time and final time. So displacement in time interval, initial time Ti to final time Tf, by definition is a vector quantity given by displacement vector Fi. This is the technique of symbolizing the displacement vector. This is one symbol for the displacement vector which I am choosing, but it helps me understanding that it is in x direction initial to final. So that is the way I will use the subscripts. So we can understand it very easily that delta xfi is a displacement vector from initial to final position. Initial position is xi I unit vector, final position is xf I unit vector. Displacement vector by definition is the position vector of final position minus the position vector of initial position, and therefore it is xf minus xi within bracket of the unit vector I. Displacement vector is also a physical quantity, and since you can measure the change in the position of the particle in a time interval in real world, suppose if it has been existing, because we are able to measure the displacement of the bodies, or when an apple falls, I can measure how much displacement has occurred in vertical downward direction in a particular second or in a particular interval. That can be experimentally measured. So displacement vector is a physical quantity. This physical quantity is also having dimension of length, and therefore its unit will be meter. For our purpose, SI unit meter we will be using for it, but it is a vector quantity, and I have already emphasized in my first talk that the physical quantity, the tensorial character is important. So the position vector and displacement vector are vector quantity, and a vector quantity specification involved specification of a unit vector. Here that was very easy because we were having only one direction in a sense, and that is that right towards right we could call it positive, and towards left we could call it negative. But when we will generalize, then we may be having infinite possible directions in three-dimensional real space, and that we will be three-dimensional real Cartesian space or three-dimensional physical space. So we will come to that later on, but right now for our one-dimensional physical space, we have introduced one more quantity after position vector. By using the position vector, then the displacement, and displacement from time Ti to Tf has been defined in this equation which you have, and this equation is therefore very important. But if you give the magnitude of the displacement, then the magnitude of the displacement is this. But the way sometimes the motion occur, displacement vector and distance traversed in the motion are different. If in between the initial time and final time there is a change in direction of motion, then it will be different. If there is no change involved in the entire duration Ti to Tf, the direction remains same, then maybe you can call the magnitude of the displacement as the distance traversed by the particle. So if a particle moves towards the right direction from -2 to +3, then we can say that a displacement of +5 meter in x direction, positive x direction, or 5i has occurred. And so, however, distance traversed will be +5 meter in this case, and that is also the magnitude of the displacement vector. But even mean between, if a particle is oscillating, is changing the direction, sometimes moving towards positive x direction, sometimes towards negative x direction. So positive x direction, negative x direction. So this is positive x direction and this is negative x direction. So suppose that is happening, in that situation the displacement and distance traversed will be different thing. But for time being, I don't need to pay attention to distance traversed. So for me, the physical quantity of importance is displacement. So displacement and position vector, two more physical quantity, both having dimensions of length, both being vector, have been defined and introduced by me. And so you also learn that when I develop a theoretical framework, I have to define. The definitions have been given by us, and it has not been there from the nature that we have taken it. In order to understand, conceptualize, and give definition. So position vector is a concept in physics. So is a displacement vector is a concept in physics. Like a vector is a concept in mathematics. And since to describe the position vector and displacement vector, we need the concept of vector in mathematics. So mathematics of vectors is very important for understanding the physics. And if you fail to understand that, maybe you will also fail to understand physics. With this, now I come to the next thing, the time. Because one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time that we have chosen for focus of this particular talk. Now, one-dimensional physical time will be also encoded to one-dimensional real Cartesian time, and which is depicted here by the t-axis. So you would find that what I have done, I have replaced x-axis and written t-axis, and otherwise it's a very similar looking image. But now what I am saying, that this is describing different instant of time, and to describe the different instant of time, just like as for describing different positions of the point, I had to choose the origin. Here also I will have to choose the origin of time t equal to 0, and I am free to choose any instant as a t equals to 0. And just as I pointed out in last lecture, that the origin t equals to 0 is chosen in different calendars as different from where the calendar will begin. But that's not a very scientific notion, calendar notion. And here the time t equal to 0 will be chosen by us. Once we have chosen time t equal to 0, all the latter instant then the t equal to 0 will be assigned positive real number, and all the earlier instant to the t equals to 0 will be assigned the negative real numbers t, and the coordinate will be called t coordinate. So if the t coordinate is 3 seconds positive, then that means that from my chosen origin of time, this instant of time is the instant which occurs after 3 seconds. But if it is say -3, then that will means that my time t equal to 0 is a later time, and the instant t equals to -3 corresponds to an instant compared to this origin which occurred 3 seconds earlier. So this is 3 seconds earlier to the origin, this is 3 seconds later to the origin, but very simple to that. The only difference is that we will use here no unit vector. Now time also has an arrow, as you know, that towards positive side, from negative time, decreasing time, increasing time, I can assign the arrow. But if I make physical time also a vector quantity in my mathematical description of physics, then I will end up in problem. Because later I intend to define kinematic quantities. What you will learn if you go through the mathematics of vector, we have definition of addition of vector or subtraction of vector or inverse vector and dot product and cross product of vector and scalar multiplication of vector. You can multiply a scalar by a, you can multiply a vector by a scalar. But there is no concept in mathematics of vector of division by another vector. So if I make both the quantities, the space and time, and depict them in vectorial manner, later in physics theory I would have to do that, definitely in advanced theories like special theory of relativity, but here I am not interested in that. So I am keeping, now the case is very similar, but I am treating time as a scalar, and so I say that this is a scalar, it will have only a positive or negative number as a value. So t equals to +5 is the positive value of this scalar, t equals to -5 is a negative value of the scalar. The real number is negative, it indicates that the value is negative, but it is a scalar value. And so we will depict the time as I have already explained it, that in the same manner as we have done for the space description or decoding, encoding, that the time will be encoded, origin will be chosen, plus 4 will indicate an instant later, 4 seconds later, and minus 4 will indicate an instant 4 seconds earlier to the origin. This I have already talked about. But it's very important that in case if t is increasing or if you move to a higher value of t, if time as you know progresses, then the higher values of t will correspond to the later values of instant and the lower values of t will correspond to the earlier instants. And it is very clear that the time interval from say and in this way that the final position is final time is greater than initial time, then the time interval will be positive. And if time interval you choose in such a manner that the final time is negative and in towards or is less than the initial time, then the time interval will become negative. And so you have to understand it properly in the same manner, but with the only difference that one-dimensional physical time is a scalar concept. It's not a vector quantity. So like what I have done for one-dimensional physical space, I have associated I unit vector. I have not introduced any such unit vector in this case. However, in both the cases, I am using the same approach of encoding the one-dimensional space to a one-dimensional real Cartesian space, and I am again encoding the one-dimensional physical time to one-dimensional Cartesian space, but by using different nature, different nature, tensorial nature, that one-dimensional physical space by using vector and one-dimensional physical time by using a scalar. However, I have already made it clear, if an instant of time is depicted by real number greater than the same for other instant, it will be occurring at later instant. If an instant of time is depicted by real number less than the same for other instant, it will be occurring at earlier instant as an earlier instant. And if the two times are equal, then we will use a term in physics which we call simultaneous. Two events are called simultaneous if the corresponding time values are same. But in one description, even if your system involves many things, in one description there should be one choice of time t equals to 0, and similarly there should be one choice of the origin of space. You can't make different choices for different. If there are say 2 particles, 3 particles, many particles moving, and I wish to describe and understand the phenomena, then in one analysis of any physical system consisting of many parts, I will have to strict, because physical space and physical time are essential, but I have to describe each and everything by choosing one common origin and one common origin of time. That is very, very essential. So we understand it, and after that we can say that, for example, in this time axis, the different points corresponds to associated different values of time, and you can measure the interval. So suppose you are somewhere here minus 1.75 and later at somewhere here 2.42, so that corresponding to minus 170.75 time if is the initial time and the final time is 2.42, then time interval can be taken from final time minus initial time, and the value would turn out to be 4.17. And here I have by mistake written meter second, so remember, correct it, that meter I have figure in because of copy paste from the earlier slide for the position. So delete m, and it is 4.17 second. It may sound obvious to you, and sometimes you may feel that I am overemphasizing it, but it is very, very important. When we will learn advanced theories, then we would be able to appreciate that systematic understanding of theoretical developments help you in understanding advanced theories, as well as enable you to make contribution in developing such theories and developing new ideas and developing new theoretical frameworks for explaining the natural phenomena. So we have concluded for one-dimensional physical time also the concept which will be useful for describing the rectilinear motion in one dimension. Now I would point out, before I move further, the certain properties which are there associated with the one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time. These are generally not pointed out at this level, but I wanted to specify it here. So when we will recollect it, you would be able to realize the importance. For example, that the space and time both we have chosen in this theoretical framework are homogeneous, and that simply means there is no preferred choice of origin. You can choose any point as an origin. However, there is a preferred choice of origin in Big Bang theory of cosmology, but that's a different space-time view. So what we are choosing Galilean space-time. In Galilean space-time, space and time both are assumed to be independent of each other, as well as both are homogeneous. And homogeneity simply means homogeneity of space, or homogeneity of time simply means mathematically that any point can be taken as x equals to 0, any point can be taken as t equal to 0. Both x and t, the coordinates, are real numbers, and they can have any value from the entire range from minus infinity to plus infinity. And minus infinity is the lower bound on the real number, plus infinity is the upper bound on the real number. Infinity is a very typical concept which we will discuss later, and very interesting concept. But the concept of infinity is required here. So in Galilean space-time, the space is infinite. I have already pointed out that in Big Bang theory of cosmology, the space is not infinite and our universe has a finite size. So when we will move to advanced theories, we will have to modify our notions and characteristics of space and time. So we will need a different kind of space and time. Since real numbers are continuous, and continuity is also a concept in mathematics which can be mathematically understood and defined, but here it is important to remember that since real numbers are continuous, the space, physical space and physical time is also continuous, but continuity can be of different kind. This kind of continuity which real numbers have, which you can understand in real analysis, is called the continuity of real numbers, and the physical space and physical time are also having the same continuity. We have already assumed that the space and time are causal inert, which means there is no associated dynamics with it. In Big Bang theory of cosmology, the involved space-time are active, and the dynamics of space-time becomes very, very important, and it reflects in the Hubble expansion, which is the expansion of space-time, not of any physical dimension. And the space and time both have ordinal structure because real numbers are ordinal numbers. So given two values of time, you can decide which one is later and which one is earlier, because you can decide whether A is greater than B, or A is less than B, or A is equal to B. They have matrix structure, and therefore the interval can be defined. So don't think that space-time are not having properties. These are the 6 properties of the Galilean space-time I have listed here: homogeneity, infinitude, continuous, causal, inactive or inert, ordinal structure and matrix structure. And the difference in physical space and time is that the physical space I am taking as a vector space, or indicating each position by a position vector, and the time I am taking as a scalar quantity. So time is a scalar quantity, position vector is a vector quantity. For describing the physical space, I need position vector. Now I have developed, after discussing this one-dimensional view of physical space and physical time separately, since I wish to understand the behavior or motion of a particle in one-dimensional space and one-dimensional time, I will have to develop a unified approach of describing the motion. And for that, what comes to my rescue is what we call two-dimensional Cartesian space, or two-dimensional real Cartesian space. So we have understood one-dimensional real Cartesian space by drawing that x-axis or t-axis. And similarly, we can understand the two-dimensional Cartesian space, but we have to choose two axes, x-axis and y-axis, and y-axis must be at 90 degree. And since we use right-handed system, the y-axis will be at 90 degree if you rotate anti-clockwise the x-axis. So 90 degree, the anti-clockwise angles measured in radians. Generally in physics, the SI unit of angle is radian, and so angles are measured in radian. So this is pi by 2 radian, and the pi by 2 radian, if it is positive, it means that it is measured in anti-clockwise direction, Anti-clockwise angles are considered positive, clockwise angles are considered negative. So the two mutually perpendicular axes can be drawn. You can label them anything, but generally in literature you find that the horizontal axis is called x-axis. So I am depicting that in this picture, and the vertical axis is called y-axis as it appears on your TV screen or mobile screen or desktop monitor screen. So the x-axis is shown along this red line, y-axis by this blue line, and different points similarly as we have discussed in one-dimensional Cartesian space on x-axis, and y-axis is also in its own right a one-dimensional Cartesian space. So by using two one-dimensional Cartesian space and putting them on 90 degree to each other, I can construct a two-dimensional Cartesian space, which I call two-dimensional real Cartesian space because real coordinates are being used. So any point, if you choose a point here, here, anywhere, so let me choose this point P. And this point P will have, instead of one coordinate as we earlier had in case of one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time, here we will have two coordinates, one corresponding to x and one corresponding to y, and we have made a strict rule and convention in mathematics that x coordinate will be written first, and that is the horizontal axis coordinate, and the y coordinate will be written as letter. This is a convention, and this convention, adopting a convention makes the job easier and people can understand easily, so we adopt convention. It's not necessary to do it in that manner, but conventions are good and conventions help us in developing a systematic understanding. So each point, so you can find a point also which has say the x coordinate 4 and y coordinate also 4, and different points, infinite number of points are there. Each point is having a pair of xy coordinates associated with it, and different points are having different pair associated with them. So association with a point is unique. So if you say 2, 3, x equal to 2, y equals to 3, that is a unique point in this two-dimensional Cartesian space. So this two-dimensional Cartesian space is very useful, and I wish to make use for our study of particle in one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional time. In that approach, I am using both one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional time. Both are having different dimensions. In most of the applications, generally where you use xy graph, maybe both x and y have the dimensions of length. But I can use the same two-dimension Cartesian space because the Cartesian space, in Cartesian space dimensions are not important as far as mathematics is concerned. But when we map physical quantities to mathematical notions, then the dimensions become very important because physical quantities have dimension. So I would use the same two-dimensional Cartesian space approach to describe my motion of the particle in one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time. So for describing the motion in one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time, what I will do here, both independent of each other, since space and time are dimension independent of each other. F is missing in the script, but you may add it. Certain typos would always occur. So what we do, that we combine one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time to construct a two-dimensional Cartesian space on which the system, natural system, can be studied by encoding. So we construct a two-dimensional Cartesian plane where one of the axes will be corresponding to time axis and one of the axes will be corresponding to the x-axis. So it is very easy case. So what I am doing, that 1 plus 1 I am describing by using a single two-dimensional Cartesian space, because you may have realized that when I had one-dimensional physical, so when I am saying that position is changing, I can understand that the x coordinate is changing, but what is happening to time coordinate, that cannot be understood, that one cannot make out from that one-dimensional diagram. So when you use two separate diagrams, one for one-dimensional physical space and one for one-dimensional physical time, that do not make the things easier for us in understanding and grasping the behavior of the physical system. So we combine the two and this combination is typical combination, but it is permitted. It will not be permitted if the two dimensions, length and time, depend upon each other. And later we will come across such situations where time and space have dependence and spatial theory of relativity, and we can't use the separate word space and time, and we have to use the common word called space-time. And what is a space-time we will discuss much later when STR will be discussed. But here what I am doing, I am using the one-dimensional space plus one-dimensional time in my later lectures. Whenever the need will arise, I will describe it by using this two-dimensional Cartesian plane, where the so-called x-axis has been called time axis or t-axis, and the earlier so-called y-axis, which was at plus 90 degree angle or plus pi by 2 radian angle to the x-axis, will be called the x-axis. So remember, there is nothing divine in mathematics that you should call this horizontal axis as x-axis only. Here I am calling this horizontal axis, earlier labeled as x-axis, as time axis. Things remain same in mathematics because mathematics does not depend upon, if the structure is same, does not depend upon which symbol you use for it. So for describing a coordinate along the horizontal line, if you use x or t, it makes no difference as far as mathematics is concerned. Here it makes a difference because time has a separate dimension. So we say time is increasing from left to right in this plane, and the position is increasing from, the x coordinate is increasing from down to up in this two-dimensional plane. So this vertical motion from down to up indicating the movement in x direction, and this is the progress of time. We say time progresses and the position, the shift may occur. So this is very convenient to me, and therefore any point in this two-dimensional Cartesian space will have two coordinates, one time coordinate which will be written first and then one x coordinate which will be written later. And this is based on that xy is a very general thing and which is very useful, and even you in the computer programs like Excel sheet you can draw many things. Even if you understand social science in terms of xy graphs, and the xy chart or graphs are very important, which I am describing here as a two-dimensional Cartesian space. And two-dimensional Cartesian space, the dimension two dimension makes it clear to you there will be two coordinates, and we have adopted a systematics that the horizontal coordinate, which here is t, will be written first in the bracket parenthesis small bracket, and the vertical coordinate or the y-axis coordinate would be written in second. So P23 is a point in space-time. Don't call it now point in a space or point in time, a point in a space-time. So suppose particle is located at x equals to 3 meter at time t equal to 2 seconds. So this is the state of the particle which I am pointing out, that my particle at t equal to 2 seconds is located at x equals to 3 meter. So that state of the system is described by this point P having coordinate 2 and 3. So every point in this two-dimensional Cartesian plane represents a possible state of the particle. It doesn't mean that the particle is there, but it is a possible state of the particles. All possible state, infinite possible states, because there are no restriction in Newtonian framework or Galilean framework, so are being described in this direction. And I assume that the negative coordinate extends to minus infinity, positive coordinates also extend to infinity. So both the coordinates positive, negative extends to infinity in case of time as well as x. So it describes all possibilities where the particle, it will at a particular instant, it cannot be at 2 point. At a particular instant, the way we have conceptualized, particle is a point-size object. At a particular instant, it is located at a point. But whatever be the case, you have a prospect of describing it in this two-dimensional Cartesian plane, and this we will be using very much in coming period of time. Now I have simplified the diagram for you, that time is written on x-axis, position on the y-axis, and I have spoken that x and t belongs to real numbers, and there is a point P shown here which has coordinate tx And so if you draw a perpendicular from P on time axis, then it will cut the time axis at T, and the length of this perpendicular from P on time axis is equal to x. So you can also alternatively say, if you draw a perpendicular from P on x-axis, then the foot of the perpendicular will be at coordinate x. So from the foot of the perpendicular from P on the axis, the respective coordinates can be obtained. Every point in this position time, space time, two-dimensional Cartesian space diagram, we can say two-dimensional or one-dimensional space, one-dimensional time combined in 2D representation, we can depict the state of the system. And the state of the system will be denoted by the position vector, and the position vector is shown here. And so position vector, because time is not involving any direction, so position vector in this case is only x into I unit vector, and I did not include anything from t. If you have letter in two-dimensional, when both x and y axes denote the dimensions of the space, we will be able to write the position vector as xi plus yj, where I is the unit vector in x direction and j is the unit vector in y direction. Here this is an interesting case. It looks similar, but it is an interesting case because x and the position of the space I am treating as vector, and time I am treating as a scalar. But this statement is correct, that the position vector of the point P is x into I unit vector. And we will discuss therefore that if at some instant t equals to ti, the initial time position vector is xif, as pointed out earlier also. We are saying, defining that let t equals to ti be an instant, and let at that particular instant xi be this position vector of the particle where it is located in the physical space. So xi equals to xi unit vector, or xi is the coordinate of the particle at time ti. Similarly, you can write for the final instant of time t equal to tf, and so for t equal to tf, called final time, the position vector is given by this relationship, by xf instead of xi. Xf and xi may be different, xf and xi may be same also. If xf and xi are same for all time, it will be called the position of rest. But let us first assume that there is a displacement and the displacement vector is not zero, and which means xf and xi are different. Displacement vector we have already defined, so I am recollecting here. The displacement vector will be given by this thing, delta xfi displacement vector is equal to, within bracket, xf minus xi into I unit vector. So I have now the necessary mathematical structure for physical space and time I have developed, from which, after defining the position and displacement vector, I can make a movement to new set of quantities which are essential for understanding the kinematics of the particle chosen as the system under consideration. So that we are now left. And I have already pointed out that we choose time as a scalar because in case of vector, you can have dot products of vector or inner product of vectors, you can have cross product of vectors or outer product of vectors. You can have a scalar can be multiplied to a vector, and when a vector gets multiplied by a scalar, it remains a vector. So there are kinds of mapping in these operations, that if you have two vectors and if you take dot product, the mapping will be to a scalar. But if you have a scalar and a vector, and then if you multiply this vector by that particular scalar, it will be a scalar. So, but in case of scalar, we can also define reciprocal. 1 upon x is x, then reciprocal is 1 upon x. Reciprocal and the number, if their product is taken, it will be equal to the multiplicative identity 1. So it's very easy to define the reciprocal, and so we can achieve the division by employing one of the quantity to be scalar and the other quantity as a vector. And that will become clear in my next talk, because I would be defining the quantities in this manner. So whenever I will define a quantity, in the numerator I will have position vectors, and in the denominator I will have time interval. So wait for that for the next talk, in which we will consider that. For time being, to conclude, the state of particle can be described by describing its position in one-dimensional space at the particular instant, and for that we can use a two-dimensional combined approach, and state corresponds to a point in two-dimensional Cartesian space. But the coordinates of the point depends upon the choice of origin. If you change the origin, then the coordinates will change. So what we realize, and that is what important aspect. I have said there are three important aspects. So we have understood the numerical aspect like unique dimensions, and the second the tensorial character, and the third is whether absolute description of the position is possible or not. So what we realize in Galilean theory or Galilean framework or Newtonian framework, that absolute description of the position is not possible. You will have to define a frame of reference, the manner in which I have done it, and by choosing the point of origin. Here we need to choose the 2 point of origin for physical space and point of origin for time. But later, when we have added the two in one combined picture, there is one point, and which is having 0, 0 coordinate, 0 for time, 0 for position. That particular point is called the origin of the two-dimensional Cartesian space, or one-dimensional physical space, one-dimensional physical time, combinedly represented in two-dimensional manner. So that is the scenario. But x of t can also be taken x, because x will be changing with time, as we will find, and that if a particle is moving in one-dimensional physical space, x is a function of time, and since t is a real variable, x is also a real variable. So you can define x of t. And now set theory and functions and their definition and importance becomes very, very important. Set theory is essentially required. I will not be able to cover everything in my related to mathematics in my talk. So x of t represents a function, a mapping from a set of real numbers describing time and to a set of real numbers describing position. And we say mathematically that the position x is function of time, and the word function of time you can understand in set theory. Please go through the literature. But x will be considered as dependent variable and time as independent variable. We know that we cannot control the time. Time is progressing, so we treat the problem like this manner, that time is happening and position is changing, and time happening or change in the time is common to all things which we are observing, but each particle may be having a different position and maybe behaving in different manner. So x is related to the position or physical space, t is related to time. But in one attempt of describing a physical problem, you will have to choose one common frame of reference, and the manner in which I have defined the two-dimensional Cartesian space, combining the one-dimensional physical space and one-dimensional physical time. So if x remains, a particle remains at the same point p, then x of t will be constant, and that will correspond to the state of rest. If there is a particle which is lying at the state of rest for indefinite time, then it is of no interest for a physicist, because we are interested in change, because we are interested in laws of nature, and laws of nature describe change. If no change is happening, even if you conceptualize the time will lose its meaning. Please reconsider my statement in light of all the talks which I have given earlier. Then it will be very easy to understand that the time makes a sense only through change. And if no change is occurring, if there is only one particle in a hypothetical universe, and that hypothetical universe, that particle, the location remains same. So that kind of a hypothetical universe having a particle located at same point for all values of time from minus infinity to plus infinity. So we know that kind of particle will be of no practical importance, and we shall not be. So state of the physical system particle is described in a relative manner by using two-dimensional Cartesian space approach, which I have described, and we cannot specify it in absolute manner. Remember, this may sound very trivial to you, but when Aristotle thought about space and time, Aristotle thought that the space can be described in absolute manner, and the importance to the center of Earth in defining, say, the position of all other celestial objects was conceptualized by Aristotle. But we are not discussing Aristotle's space-time. Now those points are very important as far as historical perspective is concerned, but we are discussing this physical space-time view, which is called part of Galilean space-time or Galilean theory of relativity. With this, I come to the conclusion of this talk. In the next talk, now we have developed the necessary mathematical structure, we have broadened, and so in the next talk we will discuss one-dimensional motion of the Newtonian particle and kinematics associated with it. And for doing that, in the next talk we will define a set of physical quantities, and these quantities which can be measured in experiments also. We will also talk about the dimensions of these quantities, units of these quantities, etc., all other relevant topics related to them. So I hope that you like my lectures. If you like my video lecture, then please click the like button, and you may subscribe my channel by clicking the subscribe, and you may click the bell icon and get notification whenever the new lectures are uploaded. Choice is up to you. I am adding these lectures, and it will be a long journey for learning with me the physical phenomena, their understanding, or what we call the fundamentals of physics. Thank you very much for being with me.